I am Ann Eller. It is good to be with you on WCRS. A little earlier this afternoon, but Curtis has an important meeting this afternoon at the Republican Party. He will be there at 6 o'clock at the courthouse. So I snagged him a little early. See what I can find out from my friend Curtis. I have known Curtis Loftis since he first ran for office. That is right. And he would come by and we'd sit here and talk, and then he took on a lot of forces and has really made a difference, I think, in how the Treasurer's office has been run. He's also taken a lot of crap, and he's dealt with a lot of stuff, trying to make our Treasurer's office and our state proud, and I'm just going to leave it like that. So this afternoon, my very special guest is Curtis Loftis. How you doing today, Treasurer Curtis Loftis?
I'm doing all right. It's a great day to be out driving around South Carolina because it is beautiful.
It is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here we are in October, and fall is here. Football's here.
Yes.
Good things going on. And you're running for office again. I thought you were giving this up, Curtis.
I was going to retire. I was retired for 10 years when I became treasurer. So
Right.
I knew it was going to be a big departure, but I thought, well, I'll say 4 years, get what done what I want, and get out of there. But they keep causing me trouble. And they want to run the money. Part-time people with full-time power is a danger. And they want to run the
I guess you're talking about our legislature.
Well, I'm talking about the Senate.
Okay.
House will beat me up, but generally I probably deserve it when they do. Because
Okay.
we all have different perspectives, and so and they also can beat you up, and then you can forget about it, or maybe I beat them up and we forget about it and move on. The Senate doesn't, so that's a problem.
Well, the Senate is supposed to be the deliberative body, right?
We won't go there. I hadn't seen any of that. Well, the state treasurer's office is a $75 billion bank, by far the biggest bank in the state. And if you can control that without having to sign the documents, because I'm heavily regulated, state, federal, lots of people have an interest in what I do. And so if you can control the guy who signs the documents, that's the real power. Politics is a lot about contributions. I can't take money from money managers. Like Goldman Sachs can't give me a dime. But if somebody controls me, they can give them all the money in the world. And see, that's what it's all about. They want control. A small group of senators wants control of the money, but they don't want to sign any documents, and they don't want to be responsible. And I say, no. So we got a battle.
We got a battle.
Yeah.
I one of the things that I was curious about that, and this all goes back to that 1.8 billion, and we lived through that, and I don't really care to go through that again. But what I do want to understand is, what is the relationship between the comptroller and the treasurer? I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, it's like in a regular business, you're going to have the comptroller who's in charge of the books. He's the accountant. In fact, he's the state's accountant. And that's an important job. It's not the most exciting job, but if you like that kind of thing, it's good. And so that's that job. Then I'm the banker. We have all the cash. Now, my books, it's a $75 billion bank. Last night we had about $45 billion invested in cash and securities and bonds, all that stuff, right? And the comptroller his books are about $100 billion, or maybe it was 111. I'm not quite sure, because he deals with a lot of stuff we don't. Capital leases. He deals with depreciation of buildings. He deals with some people we don't even deal with. But it's not real money. Now, half of it is. My part's real money. The biggest part of his is not real money. And what happens, that's where all the errors were. And what the Senate did, it just made me responsible for the Comptroller General. I don't know about depreciation. It doesn't enter my books. My books have balanced. The people's money has balanced for 10 years in a row. And the reason I say that is because that's how far they went back to look. But we always knew they balanced because my partners have to balance. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan, Chase, Federated Investment. Everybody has to balance every night, and there are parties looking at all of us. So ours, it's not easy. Don't think that. But we have to balance. The comptroller's books, It's a lot of funny money.
And well, it has appropriations.
Yes,
that
yes.
goes
And
in.
see,
I think that's a big part that people. I don't remember that ever really being discussed in this.
they didn't want it to be discussed.
Okay.
Senator Larry Groom said that there was $1.8 billion in a mysterious bank account that nobody knew anything about. There's never been a bigger whopper told than that. Because none of that was true. There was $1.8 billion of appropriations, which is budget dollars. They're not real dollars. You can't spend them. But,
only when you write the check does it become real,
well,
right?
not even then. Because,
Okay.
I mean, it shrinks down. Because at the beginning of the year, if you think about it, I got to be careful because this, people
Right.
get lost in it. But at the first day of the year, there's not that much money. But you got a whole year's budget. So you load all that money with your banks with fictitious money. And then
This is money that'll be coming in from
yeah,
taxes.
and then tax
whatnot.
dollars come in.
Okay.
So it works out that way. But I don't care about all of that other stuff. The only thing I care about is hard folding cash. And where we would get in trouble is they say things like, does the $1.8 billion exist? Well, the $1.8 billion existed and it was in my bank. But the $1.8 billion in the comptroller's books was all over the place. But I don't know then, and I don't know now, his books, because I'm not in charge. So, but
And what is your working relationship with the comptroller's office? Is it adversary or
no? In the previous one, Richard Exton and I, we used to argue like cats and dogs about policy. But I respected the man, and I think he liked me, and we got along. We weren't didn't go to dinner for all the time, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we were friendly. Now the new guy, he's a Democrat. He was put in there to tank me, so he's that's not a good relationship. He's weaponized his office against the treasurer's office, and it's not good. But we have to put up with it.
Well, let me ask you something. Why do we have an interim rather than an actual comptroller? This seems that either we should have had an election for one should have been appointed. What's the deal?
Well, the way that law works is you do get, if somebody leaves office, you did get an appointment. And so it should have been the General Assembly coming together to be appointed. But the Senate wouldn't do that. The Senate just wouldn't go to the vote. So the House was ready to go to the vote. The governor was ready to get that name and sign the appointment, but the Senate wouldn't. So when the General Assembly goes home, then it becomes the power of the governor to make that appointment. And the Senate gave him the Democrat in charge. And he's a known guy around state government. He's been but in the deep state, a bureaucrat for a long time. And so they appointed him. The governor and no one on the House side had any idea what was really going to happen. But he just weaponized that office against the treasurer's office. And all this money spent on these investigations, all of this stuff has just been at the behest of the Senate. So we just have to live through it. It's just a bad nightmare. Now, the good thing about it is the average person has a pretty good BS detector. When all this finished, and I said, well, I got to get out and see what people are thinking, I can't tell you how few people kept up with this story. Because from the beginning, they said it just didn't smell right. People who don't know accounting, people who don't know government spending, people who don't know money, they can. The Lord gave us all a right of discernment, and they hear this stuff, and they'd hear grooms talk, and they say, "This doesn't make sense."
It had to be very hard on you, though, Curtis.
It was hard. It was all.
And on your staff, I would say, probably particularly on your staff, because they're just trying to do a job.
That's right.
You signed up to be the the person in charge, but they were just trying to do a job.
You hit the nail on the head. It's my job to take it, and I didn't like it, and it was the worst experience of my life. Of all the things, it was the worst experience of my life.
Why didn't you quit? Just out of curiosity. I mean, just give up and say, "Oh, what the heck?
Listen,
take it."
I believe in good and evil.
Right.
And I've looked the evil in the face. I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never seen what happened in those meetings. And I don't really talk about the accounting part anymore because nobody understands. But let me just say this. Everybody listening to this has seen on TV, or maybe they've been themselves in court, even if it's just for a traffic ticket. But you go to court, they make you stand up and swear an oath to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Right.
We all understand that. The judge has already taken the oath to the bar. He's taken his judicial canon's oath. The prosecutors had to take all the same type of thing. And the jurors get sworn in when they come in. Except in these proceedings. I was the only one sworn in, and the committee chairman can have me thrown in jail for perjury. So that's what faces me. Now let me tell you about them. They don't take an oath.
You're talking about the senators?
The senators. Mm-hmm. The senators don't take an oath. They have no obligation to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Not only that. Now, of course, remember, you're standing there in the courtroom, and you're the only one that has to tell the truth, and you're the only one that can be punished. You can be put in jail. But you're looking at the judge, the jury, and the prosecutors. They didn't take an oath. Not only that, they have immunity. They have senatorial immunity. If they say you're a serial killer, if they say
you can't sue them back,
I can't sue them.
Oh my God!
So here I am. They can put me in jail if I lied. Now, did I go to jail?
No,
of course not, because I didn't lie. I mean, I'm sure there were times where I wasn't 100% accurate, but we would go for a 15-minute hearing, and it could last 6.5 hours, and this is early on. They had questions to last the whole 6.5 hours. They were all written out. I went with enough notes for 15 minutes. You see, so when you look at this stuff, it is beyond belief, and you really can't tell people, because at some point they say, "Can this guy be telling the truth?"
Right.
But think about it. Would you, if you were before a court, would you ever consent to go before that court if the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor could do and say whatever they wanted, but if you said anything incorrect, you go to jail?
No.
And of course not.
No.
And that's how it worked. They made me responsible for the Comptroller General. They added A plus B and got 12.
Did the comptroller ever testify? I don't remember.
No, they're not going to make that. Well, it depends. They did allow the new comptroller, require him to testify, but it was like, do you like walks on the beach at night? Would that be good? Do you like ice cream? Yeah. I mean, they didn't ask him any real questions.
Okay.
And so, yeah, but because it's all inside baseball. And they thought they would just run me off because it was a ritual of humiliation. But I've been single a long time, divorced, and I never had kids, so there's not a Curtis III around. And the state auditor, he didn't have to leave office. He didn't do anything worth leaving office, but he just looks at it and says, I'm a thinking, breathing human being. Why do I need to do this? Why do I want to put my wife through this?
You're talking about Ekstrom.
Oh, that was the state auditor. And then the comptroller, same way. You know, there were errors made in the Comptroller General's office, but money was not missing. It was a complex problem that was built over decades with all sorts of.
Did you come into that problem being there?
Oh, yeah.
In 2010.
Yeah, and some of these problems are 50 years old. But when you go from a non-computer to a computer's environment, all of these things get found out. And it was easier for us because it's money. And at the Treasurer's office, we got the money. We can tell you. The Comptroller General's office, it was harder. And so I thought, give him a little grace. Now's the perfect time to get all this fixed. Let's spend the money and do it. But the Senate didn't want to. They pounded the poor man and hounded him out of office like he had done some premeditated act to steal money, and he didn't.
Extra.
And I see things in state government every single day that are worse than what the former Comptroller General did, and they don't care because it benefits them or the people they like.
Well, doesn't this bother you at all that we have a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate?
Well, I'm thankful the House would not take this up.
Right.
I have to be careful because I don't want to put words in their mouths, and because I hadn't polled them all.
Right.
But the House leadership said, no, we're not doing this. Firstly, if they want to impeach you, it starts in the House, not in the Senate. And so, of course, the House isn't going to go along with it. But then the House looked at their investigation and said, this doesn't make sense. We're going to have to do our own. So that's millions of dollars and a lot of time. And plus, the election is in June, or the Republican primary
right.
is in June, which is effectively the election. And they said, well, just let the public decide. And so I'm thankful. And the governor was strong. So the leadership of the House, and I think the rank and file too, but the leadership of the House and the Senate, they stood strong. And I have to remember sometimes if I get mad at one of them, Henry McMaster signed the law that says we can't use our telephones while we're driving. And I was in a bad car wreck, and my car was totaled a couple of weeks before,
right.
and I'm in an old truck. So Henry made me a felon or a criminal. So now I have a new car and I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to hide the phone while I'm talking on it, right? But I'd say all that as a joke, but because you get over it. But what the Senate done is bigger, is so much bigger than me, and a lot of people saw it.
Right.
And I cannot tell you how many important people, not friends of mine, not people who said, Curtis, we just love you, we're going to vote for you. No, I mean, just significant South Carolinians said, I had no idea the Senate was like that. I've been supportive forever, and I had no idea. And let me finish with this one thing. A very important South Carolinian, whose name you would know, he's not really a Republican, is known for other things, had his 2 adult sons and their daughters over, and they watched the hearing after that night in the Senate. They watched it the next day, or the next Sunday, after their dinner. And the son got up. He's a lawyer, very well-known lawyer. He said, and he got up and he just turned it off. Didn't say why. He didn't ask. And then he turned to his dad and said, Dad, this reminds me of a porn case I had once. And every night I went home and I felt dirty. Watching this hearing, I feel dirty, and I'm not watching anymore. And that was a graphic and I think immensely intelligent point the guy made, because that's what it was. I'm in this room that you look around and the ceilings are 50 or 60 feet tall. It's built in the 1800s. Portraits taller than you are, right? I mean, it's a place, and they can stand up and lie. And their compadres know they're lying. We caught some of them right there on the floor. Senator Larry Greenwood, let me tell you what he did. The biggest piece of information about the whole case, the biggest piece of evidence that supported my case was we had an email from the comptroller said, here, make these entries. And those entries were the ones that were the offensive entries. Well, he's the state's accountant. He told us to make them. We just entered the data.
Right.
That's how it worked.
Told there, yes.
That's right. Yeah. So we just did what we were told. We didn't know. And he didn't give that to the Senate. And we called his hand on it. He didn't think, well, we got a packet. We started looking at it. And that packet was probably 150, 200 pages. This email was 1 page. And it's the one thing that clears me. And in fact, if you wanted to make the defense, all you do was hand out the 1 page. And we called him out, and he said, that packet was too thick already.
For 1 more page?
Yeah. And I think there's 19 lawyers in the state Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't all 19 get up and walk out? I mean, this is the thing. It's not that they got a hold of me. I'm a grown up. I can take it. I don't like it. I can take it. But how is it we have a place where you don't have to tell the truth? And I don't mean like everybody's for this and everybody's against this and we got to have this much money. I don't mean that kind of argument. In advertising, they call that puffing your product, your car salesman. This car is the best car ever. Well, it's legal because it's called puffing your product. But I mean stand up and say things that you know and everybody else knows is factually untrue. How does that happen?
I don't know, and it is very disturbing that it is in the Senate.
Yes.
Now, I heard a part of an interview where you were talking about how when Hugh Leatherman was there, that y'all had disagreements, but y'all always worked it out.
Hugh Leatherman ran the state for a lot of years. He was the most important person in South Carolina for a long time. And I was friendly with the guy, but I was also his 17-year-old son who was late for curfew all the time. And so he punished me on a regular basis. When you're the most powerful guy in the state and somebody like me brings out fraud, waste, or abuse, I mean, he didn't have to have anything to do with it. He just didn't want it out there.
Right.
And he would beat me up, and then a week or two later we'd be fine. And that happened a lot of times, right?
Right.
When Senator Leatherman died, the rules went with him. I mean, you didn't have to like his rules.
Right.
But there are no rules. I've never seen state government so dysfunctional as I see it now. And a lot of it is the fact that Leatherman's not there. People saw what they did to me, and they say, I don't want that.
Right. I wouldn't want that.
You know how we don't put people in jail anymore? You go out, chop off a few heads, burn a few neighborhoods, and you spend like 30 days in jail. Well, they saw that with me, except they know it's worse than jail. Because what if you're a bureaucrat? You could be a highly placed bureaucrat making a good living, and you're 45 years old. You still got another 15 years of work. Are you going to go through this? You're going to lose your job and never be able to get another job?
No.
Supreme Court justices and state judges are in the same bunch. Solicitors are in the same pile that they threw me in from. So how about if you're a state Supreme Court justice and all of a sudden you get called before the hearing about something trivial and they keep you there for 2 years? Yeah. If you're a solicitor and you're bothering my cousin, the drug smuggler, and I call you in and you're there for 2 years. I mean,
so what is the answer with South Carolina? What is the answer with South? Because one of the questions that we do have is how do we elect judges? Yes. That is a question that has been going around. What is the answer to some of this?
One is this awareness, and I thought, look, I was retired, like I said, for 10 years before I became treasurer. And I've been treasurer a lot longer than I thought.
Why did you decide to become the treasurer of all the different offices out there?
Because the old guy wouldn't come to work, and he was a hack.
Tell us.
Yes. And he is great friends with who? Larry Grooms. It all goes back to listen, I can't tell you how petty these people are.
And before that, it was Ravenel, which I was interested in reading that. I was like, the treasurer's office is just
Everybody wanted a piece of the treasurer's office.
Right.
But here's one of the things that happened is the economy in South Carolina has really taken off. And then you had COVID. And then it's taken off again. So we have so much more money than we used to. The treasurer's office was a sleepy bank. Maybe it would have $20 billion in there at the end of the night. Now it's 45, 46, 47 billion, not counting the 7 billion in the Future Scholar. So we can have 52, 54 billion dollars under control. Well, if you're a high-priced money manager someplace, you want a piece of that action, and you're willing to pay for it. And I can't tell you how many people in this country have $400,000 a year jobs, working from their hole-in-the-wall house someplace, doing marketing for international firms, or doing remote work for HR, or any kind of just junk you can think of. It happens all the time. And that's why people want to be close to the money. Now, I've been fortunate. I got my own money. Don't want anybody else's. I don't spend what I have. I don't even spend my salary. What do I care? But these people want to be close to money. And one of the greatest lessons you can ever learn is watch who's around the money. And it's a $75 billion bank.
Well, you have made statements that the Senate wanted to control the money.
Senators
wanted to control the money. And that's part of the reason that they wanted you out.
They control the Comptroller General's office. They control the State Auditor's office because there's an interim there. And they want to control the Treasurer's office. They want the money, they want the accounting, and they want the auditing.
But what would they do with the money, Curtis? Well, what is the purpose for having them? I mean, other than to put it in my pocket, but what is the purpose?
It's not to put it back of cash in your pocket. What it's for is, my friend works at X investment house on Wall Street. I want him to get $8 billion to invest. And the friend is going to make so much money off the $8 billion, he's going to be very thankful for you.
Isn't that what you went in originally into? That's what you started discovering, why the funds for Wall Street and everything were not performing as well because they were in low.
I had a firsthand. I got a master class in this, a PhD. The Investment Commission of South Carolina, which is not run by the Treasurer's office, it was an independent commission, and the Treasurer served on that board. I found that they were paying $247 million in hidden fees. Hidden fees. Nobody knew they were being paid outside of a few people. When I blew the whistle on that, along with some other things, like we paid the highest percentage of fees of any large pension plan, and we made the least amount of money of any large pension plan. It's like we walked into the Rolls-Royce shop. We paid $600,000 for a Rolls-Royce, but we drove away in a Pinto. So, we paid the highest amount of fees. We hired the most expensive people, and we got the lowest amount of money in return.
And you paid a heavy-duty price for unveiling that.
Yeah, and what there's a couple of things, and it's funny because I had forgotten so much of this because I don't live in my head in the past. I'm looking forward. But I had to do a documentary the other day. I've been interviewed for a documentary about some of these things because we helped change the way private equity deals with pension plans. Because before they were completely opaque, they wouldn't let the states see the contract. No, I mean, it was terrible.
Well, they wouldn't even let you in the meeting, if I remember
That's
correctly.
right.
They would change the meeting or something, and you'd go, and there wasn't there.
So we got all that ironed out because I didn't have the ability to fire somebody, but I did have the ability to make their life miserable. And they left, and they're fine. They took a board seat with them and made $7 million in the next 7 years.
Okay, they're
for free.
okay.
Yeah, they took our board seats, the state's board seat, right?
Right.
So they did okay. So I mean, these things. But when I had to think about this the other day, I remembered all this. Think about $247 million. That's almost $250 million of money going to the money centers around the world, and nobody knew about it. They were unaudited. Nobody. Now, why would you do that?
And they weren't getting kissed either, were they?
That's right. So if you give somebody $10 billion, or if you give them $5 billion to manage, they're going to make a tremendous sum of money. And I don't think I've ever told the story on the radio, but I've told it in private. So, and I've got some backup. Before I was elected in June in the Republican primary, my very first election, but I didn't have a Democrat, so I was effectively in office, but I wasn't.
Right.
I was sitting at my brother's restaurant, and someone from a very big investment firm, everybody knows who this firm is, was sitting there and said, "Curtis, you just don't seem like the guy to be in politics." And of course, I was a lot younger. I was thinner, been climbing mountains and traveling the rural, having a good time. He says, "So what are you doing?" I said, "I've always liked government. The current treasurer wouldn't work. We're not a rich state. We need to manage our money well." And I said, some people approached me, and I didn't think I wanted to do it. Then I looked at it, and I called a campaign consultant, and he told me how much it was going to cost. And this is the interesting part. I said, they told me how much it was going to cost, and it was almost to the penny what I was going to buy a house in Italy for, up in the mountains in Italy. Almost to the penny. And the guy, and I said, so I laughed back because I thought it was a funny story. I said, so, it was like karma.
Buy a house in Italy or run for office.
And I also thought, well, I never had a house in Italy, and I've never run for office. So I'm not going to miss either one because I never had it, right? And so I thought about it, and I said, okay, that's just karma. And I was looking for something to push me over the edge. So I did it. And he looked at me and said, we can make that house happen for you. Just like that. We can make that house happen for you. And that could mean a lot of things. And this, fortunately, they have tightened some of the rules up since then. But they could have bought a house and leased it to me for $1 or just let the key under the mat. I mean, there's 100 different ways you can do these things. And it happens all the time. I dropped out of several of the national trade groups because I thought that these groups are too close to the money managers. And we got some reforms, and now I've gotten back in one of them, and I've got the toe in the other because they're doing better, but not where they should be. But we just have to be careful about that. And so I'm not unapologetic about it. I do sometimes forget that I signed up for everything because sometimes I get my feelings hurt and get mad. But then you go out and you talk to people, and nobody cares about that bunch. Nobody cares about that state Senate.
Except for the fact, Curtis, it's our money. It's
Yes.
just like when I talk on the radio, the government's doing this and the government's doing that. And I say, but whose money is
That's
it?
right.
It's our money that the government is spending.
Yeah, now that's the second part of it. The first part is just the aesthetics of it.
Right.
I mean, you'd be surprised when I go to a Republican Party meeting how many people don't know who their senator is because they get elected. They don't show up anywhere.
Right.
So it's just interesting, and nobody knows who the senator from the next district is.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So if you got somebody to be after you, they're good ones, and they're not finished. They're setting up. We see it every day. They're setting up little traps that don't matter to anything or anybody. It's like if you go to work, tell your husband to clean the house up, and he forgot to wash the towel in the guest bedroom. It's like, okay, you should have done it, but are you going to fight
Blow
about it?
everything
Of
up?
course
No.
not, right? But they are assembling these little teeny things, and they're going to come back at me again. But I've decided this time, as you can tell from this interview, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I was being nice, or I was trying to be nice. I don't know if I was always. Because I thought they're going to beat me up, and then they're going to let me go. And
Didn't they just want you? I mean, I was told by some senators that they wanted you to say you were sorry.
Yeah, what was I supposed to be sorry for?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but that was the thing.
But here's what I want you to think about. And this is the funniest thing, because we had a different thing that I'm not going to go into, where a very measured person had some business with the Senate. And he said, and I've never heard this man cuss before, but he couldn't believe how petty they were. And they were mad at me because I wasn't as contrite as I should be. Well, it's not my fault. They don't understand that I didn't do the problem. If they'd have said to me earlier, we're just dolts and we need you to apologize and make us feel good, but that's all junk. They don't really mean that. They wanted control of the money. Now, are there some people in the Senate who maybe wanted me to say,
what would have happened if they could have gotten you out of that seat? What would have happened?
They would have got an appointee. Okay. And then it'd been just like the Comptroller General. They run the Senate. They run the money. And tell you what I do. If I was a powerful senator and I could have my guy put in as the Senate, the first thing I'd do is I'd split that $46 billion we had in the bank up into about 6 or 8 different managers. Each one of those managers is going to make millions and millions, tens of millions every year off of this. And so they're all going to owe me. My idiot son and his idiot son and his idiot son are going to always have jobs.
Right.
And that's the type of thing. I sat in Washington, D.C. at one of the nicest hotels there back in the days when I attended these conferences, and I said, this is just too much money. We can't go to these places. So I've never told this story before. But a leading treasurer was sitting there at the table next to me. We're buddies. And he's a Democrat and I'm a Republican. We all got along. And a representative of one of the world's largest investment banks came up and handed him what looked like a folded up piece of paper. Just like, turns out it was a folded piece of paper, but it was around a credit card. And I could see from the angle, I could see my treasurer buddy open up the letter. I could see it was a credit card. I saw him put it in his pocket. So I thought to myself as I ate my breakfast, did this treasurer loan one of the world's largest institutions a credit card
to pay for something?
Or did they loan him the credit card? Now, as it turns out, the spa, which I think was $2,500 a day at that place,
right?
His wife was in there for 2 days. Now, I don't know who paid. I can't tell you.
Right.
And then the next night, I heard this conversation where they were telling a treasurer about how wonderful his wife was. And he kept agreeing, and she was. I liked her. And they said, she should be on a big national board. We can make that happen. You think she'd do that? And he said, well, yeah, of course. And they started talking about these international conservation boards. And, you might make a couple $100,000 a year. They send a private jet for you to go to Africa to look at the safaris. And he said, this safari stuff, it sounds fun, but it's a lot of work. It's 2 weeks, and we'll have minders and all that. And it's all private jet, and security's taken care of by us. And I'm thinking, that's $100,000 a week trip. And they're selling it as work. And I don't know if she ever took that, but that's what they do. They collect the people around the treasurers or the governor, everybody. This is how the system works. And that's why I pretty much self-fund. If you want to send me a check, I'll take it, but I'm not going to go asking for money. I'll just pay the bill.
This sounds like what I hear about lobbyists down
Yes.
there at the House and the Senate down there in Columbia.
Yeah.
There is so much money, particularly when we're talking about the gambling issue, that
Yes.
they want to get that through. Marijuana, the issue with medical marijuana, sounds like similar type thing, except even more extravagant because you're controlling the money, right?
And it's so easy to get outside the lines. And I just don't want it, When I first came into office, my door was a revolving door for lobbyists, special interest groups, investment funds. And when they found out that I wasn't going to play with them, I can't find them. They blocked my phone calls. I don't know what it is, But
you can't even get a free lunch, right?
Yeah. South Carolina, if I had $1 for every time I bought a really rich guy dinner or lunch, because, I'm not going to, you don't want to get in trouble over a meal, right?
Right,
So
right.
I'll pay.
Right.
It's too much money in politics because there's too little honor and integrity. The money by itself, it can sit out there, okay. But we've got to say no. And I know we were headed a few minutes ago, like, what do we do about all this? We got to say no more. And it's up to us. The people have no idea how much power it is. A state senator, some of them get like 10,000 votes or less to win. That's
Right.
it. And it might be 10,000 to 8,000, so a couple thousand votes matter.
Well, they're all talking about how little money they make, right?
Yeah.
And then they vote themselves a nice raise there.
Oh, let me tell you about that. I point blank.
I want to hear about this because this has been one of my issues.
Some of the ones who were hollering the most about it were going around the floor begging, and I saw them because I was there for my problems, begging other people to vote for it because they said, I'm running for X and I can't do it. I can't vote. Will you please? Every vote in the Senate is known before it happens.
So it's negotiated.
Yeah,
before
it's everything's negotiated out, and even like in my vote, they knew, So it was all for show. Well, there's a lot, but here's what I want to say about that. If I ask questions about the national political scene, people can answer them. If you ask about the state political scene, they can. If you ask about local, okay, most people don't have any idea who anybody is. They don't keep up the school boards. What we've got to do is understand we can't do anything about D.C. They're going to do what they want to do. I mean, I'm a Trump guy. We go vote for Trump, blah, blah, blah. But the action is right here. And how the left took over America is they took over the local elections. And they've done it all across the country. We have got to go. There are seats that, like in Casey, little town next to me, it's a riverfront town, right there in the city. And they're on both sides of the river. They have land over there by the football stadium. They had a vacancy come up. A lady moved out of town. And it took 57 votes to win that district. We didn't even know,
57.
the Republicans didn't even know there was an election going on. We didn't even throw anybody in there. We could have won that. And it sounds like, it's not. But that land now is about to be used for the university. The university is spending $350 million on the stadium, not counting an even much larger sum on that land. That just hadn't been exhausted. So all of this stuff is important. We need to take our school boards back. We need to take the city councils and the mayors. We need to go vote people who will say no to lobbyists, people who will go out and knock on doors as opposed to raise a bunch of money, and don't go off to all these conferences. They can't. When you hear somebody go into the Aspen conference because they did good work, or the Raleigh Institute in Furman, count them out. Those places are I've been. And believe me, I've been to Aspen. They'll never invite me back. But I enjoy myself. And
right.
Because they're just indoctrination places.
Right.
And so we got to stop all that. And the people of Greenwood, we got here a few minutes early. You're right around Greenwood. What a great place. It's unique. It's a wonderful place. People get along. Lander is one of the few schools that I feel great about talking about. They're the least woke school in the state.
And what? It's one of the top 5 in the nation.
So Greenwood should really be proud of itself. I think they are, but I don't think they're as proud as they should be. And generally they have pretty good delegation. But everybody in this, you go back and you look at who represents you and go meet them. And when the General Assembly comes back, you got to say there's 5 garden clubs and 10 museum clubs. Each one of those have got to go to the General Assembly and meet with the delegation every year. Because the left is doing that. The left is there every day, all day.
I think it's really disheartening. And one of the things that I was very disappointed in this last year was how little a Republican-controlled House and Senate got done.
Yeah. But the Senate is dragging everybody down because the House has to negotiate with them. So, there's two tactics. You say, we're going to do the strict Republican thing and nothing else is going to pass.
Right.
Well, then nothing passes. And some things have to pass, right?
Right.
Or you have to negotiate. And so then negotiate. I wouldn't be the Speaker of the House for $1 million a day. I'd last about 5 minutes before they had to throw me in jail because somebody would be on the side of the road, right?
Right.
Because the House especially, it's designed to be trouble. It's designed
to be rabble-rousing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
yes.
They are. But they don't have, and there's some things I wish I could change. But generally speaking, they're honest people. They're fair people. And when they get after me, I know there's some truth there. And so I'm okay with it. We fight back and forth, and then we'll all shake hands and be finished with it. But the Senate is different. And that's where we really have to make changes. And the Senate doesn't come up this time. They're up in 3 years.
Right.
Not next. And I have heard, and it's early days, but there's people out there raising money. There's people getting ready to run a race. People cleaning up their personal affairs. I've talked to them personally, and so I'm excited because that's what's got to happen.
Well, it's just like, well, you're already running for treasurer. I mean, I'm a little surprised that the governor's race is already out there and running fast and furious.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it going to be like when they've already had a lot of back and forth? What's it going to be like in April, May, and June?
I don't like any of it.
Right.
When I say I'm running, I'm saying I'm running, but I'm not running ads and stuff.
Right.
I'm out talking to people and all that kind of stuff. The main reason I ran to start with, it was February of 2010. Filing date is in March,
Right.
and the election is in June. And we don't have a Democrat. So I looked at that. That's just 4 months. That's what it should be. This stuff is starting so early, and all it is I'm Donald Trump's best friend. No, I am. No, I am. No, I am. And I don't want to hear a thing about Washington D.C. I want to hear if you're in office now. I want to hear what you've done here in concrete ways. And for me, what I want to know is, when did you put your political career at risk? Because that's all the difference. Now, I'm making myself into a king here. But if you're not willing to go stand in the breach, get out. Just get out. And that's what we have. We have politicians telling us, oh, I've done this, that, and you look behind it, and none of it's really true. You got to say, I will stand there for you. And that's why people like Trump. He said, they're coming after you, but I'm in the way. That's exactly how I feel. And I felt like that. I was elected before Trump. I had Trump to Charleston for a national conference before he even announced. He was just a glimmer. And we brought him down, had John Ashcroft, who was running, Attorney General, was going to run for president. Carly Fiorina, however you say that name.
Yep.
And it seemed like I had somebody else. So we had 3 presidential contenders down there. And it was a good time. And I made up for my speech. I made up the Trump trailer park that I was trying to sell him, and he was sitting there laughing. And I said, "Come on, how much are you giving into the?" I mean, he knows how to play the crowd. I mean, he stole my jokes from me and turned them back on me, and it was perfect.
Oh, he probably would have liked Myrtle Manor.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that show, Myrtle Manor.
I know. Well, where were you when I was needed the jokes? But you look at these things, and I get Washington. I understand why people are fascinated. What's the old joke? Columbia is Washington, but with less attractive people. Yeah. And Washington is Hollywood with less attractive.
Yeah, right.
It's just not that exciting, but it is all that matters.
It is all that matters.
This local is all that matters. We have states in the Union now who are like the South in the 1850s. They don't believe in the federal law. They don't believe in any of this stuff. Illinois, New York, California, others. The sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, they just believe that they don't have to follow the Constitution. And I'm not saying we should go do anything other than we should have the best state we can have. We got to worry about this. Quit watching Fox News. Listen to Ann Eller. That's the whole trick there. But I mean, Fox News helped turn, and I don't want to be too negative about them, but they helped turn the conservative movement into a soap opera.
I agree with you
and,
on that.
And it's so much. Nobody goes to jail.
Right.
Nobody goes to jail.
You're right.
And I'm going to go to Washington here in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be there with all the biggies. And I'm going to tell them, if you don't put meaningful people in jail, I ain't voting for you. I don't know if I'll see Vance, but I'll tell him that point blank. And I'm not a jail kind of guy.
Right.
I mean, but we cannot continue to have trillions of dollars sent around the world and nobody knows where it goes. Nobody's
accountable.
Exactly. Somebody, and they latch on to the old Epstein stuff. I don't care about that stuff.
Well, I think, it's always the shiny object over here.
Yes.
What can we divert the attention to?
And like the auto pen stuff, they love to talk about when Trump is going to go after the people who went after him. He should. Because when somebody abuses the law, somebody's got to hold them accountable. They just never thought he would be the guy.
Right.
And now he's president. And it's like,
what do you think about Hillary and now Bill both saying that Trump did a good job on the Middle East?
Well, I think there's a whole lot more to that.
Okay, Curtis, spill the beans now.
This is Curtis. I can't give this to anybody else. But it's like the Epstein stuff. Why did they go soft on Epstein? Well, first place, there ain't that much to it. I mean, it's been piped up for years. Who knows what the truth is? And it's old. A lot of the people involved are dead.
Right.
Or are about to.
Right.
So what would you do if you walked into a room and the CIA, say, or the FBI or something, they say, this is an embarrassment for the CIA and the FBI. We don't want you to take this Epstein thing any further, but we'll give you Hillary.
We'll give you Hillary, right.
That's how it's done. I've not been in the room with that, but I have seen things like that traded, and it appalls me. Because nobody's looking at the relative values or anything. What they're doing is giving away the rights, privileges, and money of the average person. And this could be Hillary. But when this whole last debacle of the Epstein thing came along, I said, they've traded it for something. Now, it might have been a good trade.
Right, it might have. Right?
I mean, I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But I guarantee you that's what's happened. And I'm going to sniff around when I'm up there next week.
But do you think the Hillary and Bill giving President Trump kudos for the Middle East? Don't you find that amazing?
I thought what happened was, because I had a friend who does know a bit about this stuff, and he said Hillary's in trouble. Told me about 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something like that. And then now they come out and say these nice things.
Right, right. I think there's something there
but
too.
What are we really talking about? We're talking about a culture that nobody can be trusted in.
Well, that's true.
And again, that's why I come back to Columbia. That's entertainment. Watch it for the entertainment value. It could be a soap opera. It could be a reality show. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. But here you can have an effect. You can say to your state senator or your House member, I want you to do X, X, and X. And my entire neighborhood wants to do it. And we're going to come up to Columbia and watch you vote. And then you got to show up. It matters. It really
does matters. And we've had some issues here with our school board. And the very fact that people showed up in those school board meetings made a difference. So they always say that local politics is where everything happens, and it really does.
I graduated from public schools, and I can't think of a bad experience there. I mean, did I get a world-class education? No, but I really wasn't looking for a world-class. I was smart enough, got through college, so it's okay. But what's happened to our schools, and this is not an attack on teachers, some teachers, yes, but what's happened to our schools is unbelievable. And it is going to, let's just say it's unbelievable, and the cost cannot be underestimated. Just Saturday night, there were 4 or 5 reunion shootings in Mississippi, Louisiana, and South Carolina.
I know.
Hardly any of them got press. I mean, and I went kind of looking for the press on it because I saw the first one. I thought this was in Louisiana, and then it was out. So I kept saying, I mean, there's a ton, and right here in South Carolina. So I started looking at that, and it turns out that they're all one group of people, and the press is just going to stop. Well, I care about that group of people. Those people are citizens of in South Carolina. They're constituents of mine.
Right.
Now, we're hearing more about this one, but the one there were 2 in Mississippi the same night. 4 people killed in one and 2 killed someplace else in the same night. If you go to the AP National Wire, they haven't changed their story since 7:41 in the morning on Sunday. And here it is Monday afternoon. And there's been a whole lot changed to that story. They're not going to write about it. And again, this goes back to the education we have. We don't teach people how to be curious, how to think. We put all this woke stuff, and the woke stuff is everywhere. Donald Trump is doing a good job, but do not believe that he's beating it, because every school district, every school, every Boy Scout, every churches, they're all just changing the names. They're going from diversity, equity, inclusion to belonging, to first generational education. All these are belonging. Think about that. And it's even worse, because if somebody doesn't feel like they belong because Ann Eller said something, think in England, they arrest 1,100 people a week for thought crimes on the radio. On the internet. In Russia, they arrest 300 people a year.
We've got huge problems. There is no question about it. Curtis, I just want to say this wasn't the conversation we were going to have, but but darn, it was good.
Well, I enjoy coming.
Absolutely. Now, what do people do? Because we did talk about, we're out of time. Your guy out there is standing up there and telling me, cut. But what you did have a couple of names there of unclaimed property. You want to just put those out there real quick?
Unclaimed property is the most fun thing I do. We have almost $1 billion. It belongs to churches and charities and businesses in South Carolina. Here in Greenwood, we've got a list. It must be 10 pages long of people over $5,000, including we have several for self-hospital and self-medicals. We have Robinson and Son mortuaries. The top person, by the way, we owe $125,000.
So what should people do?
Go to the state treasurer's website and unclaimed property. Make sure you're on our website. A couple clone sites, they just charge you, but you've already paid. Get your money. The average person has $500, and 1 in 4 people have that. But we owe $1.5 million to one family in Myrtle Beach. We owe a professor in Charleston $500,000. We owe the South Union Congregation Church on Sylvan Road. We owe them $10,000. We owe the King's Chapel Methodist Church on Godfrey Road $9,700. I mean, it just never ends, the number of people. And when you go and look up your name as a free search, look up your mom's name, look up your dad's name, even if they passed, because the estates are oftentimes not correct, and the money comes to us 3 years later, 5 years. It could be a utility payment you didn't collect or deposit. It could be it could be stocks that you thought went to nothing. Remember the .com value?
Right.
A lot of those stocks that went to a penny and people just quit worried about them. They closed that Yahoo account and went on.
Right.
It might be worth $500,000 now.
Oh my God!
Because they were bought. We've had this happen. They were bought by somebody those stocks went into the part of the deal and they went up. So there's no end to it. There are 501c3s on here. Greenville County Hospital's in here. Help Through Greenwood Neighbors, a 501c3. Emerald Car Wash, you told me was out of business. Right. All of these people we owe money to, and this big long list, and we would love you to go to Treasurer.
What is it?
sctreasurer.gov, South Carolina State Treasurer's Office. Look that up, unclaimed property. Make sure you're there. You see my beautiful smiling face. That's how you know. And look it up, and it's a free search.
Absolutely. And also the 529 program is doing very well for people.
We've taken it from $1 billion to a $7 billion program. It's how you save for college and you save for private school, K through 12. That's a new thing, K through 12. And say you finish, you got a 529 college savings plan for your kids to go to college, but he gets a football scholarship. So you got all that money. He can roll it over to a Roth IRA, and you can roll it over to his dope little brother who didn't get a scholarship.
Right.
So it's all those things. If your one kid gets out and doesn't have any debt, but he's got leftover money, you can transfer it to a sibling and pay off that sibling's debt.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're all great programs.
These are all things that can happen. And Curtis, it has been a pleasure to have you here today. It's been too long since we've sat down and chatted like this.
I was in chains for 2 years. And I'm out and around, and there is nothing better than going out and seeing real people.
Absolutely.
I hardly ever meet anybody that's mad. They get mad at the government, but that's generically. It's just a nice place to be. I'm glad to be from South Carolina.
It is. Well, Curtis, thank you so much for coming here today. Hopefully you'll come back. You are running for office, and you are headed over there to the courthouse at 6 o'clock because you are going to be at the Greenwood Republican Club, and I know you'll be telling more and more stories. So thank you very much for coming out today.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. We will take the curtain down, we will cue the music, and we will be back in the morning. So make sure you come and listen right here on WCRS tomorrow morning. News is in progress. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Curtis.